black thing go from left to right, and I thought, I'm going to die out here. No one's ever going to know. I couldn't believe what my eyeballs were showing me. I'll never forget how evil the eyes were. It was horrible. I mean, I've never seen nothing that evil.
It ran towards me at a rate that I can't even explain. Turned and stared at me, and this look of, I just want to kill you. I want to say it was human, but it wasn't.
He was yelling at me to grab a gun, grab a gun. I was like, for what? He said, just grab a gun. And there's footprints all the way to the door of my house. It had went inside my garage, all the way to the door.
911, what are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Zio!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
You're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles. Check us out online at sasquatchchronicles.com. If you've had an encounter, email me. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Happy holidays. Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. Got a great show planned for you tonight. Going to be speaking to Todd Standing. And most of you know Todd, if you're in the Bigfoot world. You've seen his videos, you've seen his pictures. He's gone out with Dr. Meldrum. Actually, I think Dr. Meldrum had his first sighting when he was with Todd. And Todd's been out with Survivor Man and a bunch of other people, and he's really trying to prove that Sasquatch exists. And he's taking it farther than most researchers out there. I know everyone's looking at the court case and everyone's just kind of like, well, whatever. But it means a lot. If he can get this thing into court and prove Sasquatch is real, it's going to change the game. I have my hesitation with if he's able to do it or not, but I'll be rooting for him. Should be a fun show, talking to Todd and talking about what he's wanting to accomplish in court. What evidence is he going to take in court? And I've posted some of his videos down below if you're listening to this on SasquatchChronicles.com. Right below this episode, you can watch some of his videos. And I'm going to ask him about those encounters and have him walk us into those encounters and his feelings on Sasquatch prior to what he filmed, what he experienced, and try and get down to the nitty-gritty of Todd Standing. Todd's actually a really nice guy. I've been really hard on him over the years. Actually, when I very first got into this, you have this mentality that you know everything and everyone else is just stupid. And then I think the longer you're in this, you start to realize that you don't know everything. In fact, you really don't know that much. And, everyone's in the game for the same reason. We want to prove Sasquatch is real. I hope Todd proves it's real. You guys hear encounter stories all the time on the show, and it would be nice if it was recognized and proven. And so he'll be talking about his court case tonight, talking about some of his encounters. Give him a chance, just listen to what he has to say, and then make up your own mind. I've talked to Todd privately a couple times, and he's actually a really nice guy. But if you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. And if you get a chance, check out the website, sasquatchchronicles.com. You can become a member, get additional shows. This week is more or less for the holidays. I know some people are struggling out there, so I'm trying to do more shows so that, you can get your mind off of it for an hour or so. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome Todd Standing to the show. Todd, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Wes.
Yeah, and I know I privately apologize to you, and I guess I'll do it publicly too as well. I know I was hard on you, when you first get into this field, and I'm not making excuses for my behavior, nothing really that bad, but it's not like I, sent you a death threat or anything like that. But it's amazing, when you first get into this field, Todd, you think you know everything. You got it all figured out. And you're going to solve it, and you got it all figured out. And then as time goes on, I think you really start to think to yourself, I don't know as much as I thought I did. In fact, I know nothing.
Yes.
And it's sure funny how life has a way of humbling you. But I just wanted to say that publicly. I know privately I apologize to you, but thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate you being here.
Well, you know what's significant about this apology is if you're not about forgiveness and you can't, because God knows I've made mistakes and probably a lot of things I should be apologizing for. I have strong opinions and sometimes they're wrong, but that's what hypothesis is. That's how you move forward. But again, what I wanted to mention is the point is what I'm doing right now and how I'm moving forward with this. To me, what is so important. I worked for species protection. I'm working for the acknowledgement of the species. And what I'm doing right now is such a difficult, hard, uphill battle. I want everybody to know, no matter what you said, no matter what I've said, no matter what problems I've had in the past, it's not about any one of us. It's about the acknowledgement and the acceptance of this species. And if that's what you're concerned about, I sure could use help from anybody who wants to help me, anybody who has evidence, anybody who has testimony. If you don't know it yet, listen to this show because we're going to talk about what I'm doing because it's so important. My documentary's out, and I've brought the best in the world that I could ever think to work with. Jeff Meldrum, John Benernagel, Les Stroud, Jimmy Chilcott, police officers, wildlife officers, fishery officers, everybody I can get on board to help me because I need help, because what I have to do is, prove in a court of law that this species exists. And it's going to be hard. So forgiveness for everybody, let's because that's why I'm doing this show. That's why I'm doing interviews. I need help, and I'm here asking for help because I don't want to do this on my own. If I have to, I will. But the chances of me succeeding are significantly higher, So and I've always, gosh, I couldn't have done anything. This is I won't let my videos be called the Patterson Gimlin footage. Like, it's not called the Todd Standing footage, and it never will be, because every video and every success I've had, I stand on the shoulders of great men and women. It's never all me. I didn't do this alone. Even if it was some man who had an encounter 25 years ago and I read it and learned from what he said in that encounter, and maybe I don't give him credit, and maybe I should, because it's 20 different encounters and 30 different interviews and all these different mentors of mine that helped me move forward. And that's, people are like, why do you have such great success? Because I stand on the shoulders of incredible, amazing people that have been doing this far longer than I have. And even the First Nations people, my gosh, why can't those people have so much to teach us and offer? And I am so humble, and I am tremendously about forgiveness. And that's right across the board to anybody who wants to know about it. My gosh, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I have stepchildren, I have family. If you don't forgive, man, you're gonna be a lonely dude. So we all make mistakes.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. Thank you for that. And I always wanted to ask you, Todd. Everyone's seen your videos, but I don't think anyone has ever asked you about your first encounter and the first time you actually. And we'll get into the court case. We'll get into all this other stuff, but I want to get back to that moment of when you had your first encounter. And did you believe in these things? And if you would you mind walking us into that encounter? I'd love to hear it.
Oh, I was, it's video 2. That footage that I filmed, video 2, was the very first encounter. I was being led by 2 individuals, one who's my mentor, a biologist from Great Falls, Montana, and another close friend of mine who's just a fearless, amazing paramedic firefighter from Calgary. They knew that Sasquatch was real, and I was out there to prove Sasquatch can't exist. So they had done... I was in an area that was a Sasquatch hotspot. All the First Nations people said Sasquatch were there. There were tons of sightings, lots of incidents that had transpired there. But I was looking for, at that time, I was sure it had to be Indians making suits. That's what my theory was at that point. And when I listened to them and I did exactly what they...
I didn't mean to cut you off, Todd. Do you mean like shaman? Is that what you mean? Indians making...
Yeah.
Okay.
Native Americans can make moccasins and beautiful headdresses and gourd. I thought, what a brilliant way to scare people away and keep them out of your hunting areas is create this mythos and make these costumes and suits and scare them. It's brilliant on every level. Make that stinky smell that when you smell it, oh, run away, the beast is near, right? So that's what I was looking for. And when I filmed video 2 and saw the Sasquatch and went up there and saw where it was, saw the impressions in the ground, I really just went on autopilot. I was so stunned, was the word I would use, because a human being couldn't have done that. A human being couldn't have been there. And I was so convinced it had to be that Sasquatch can't exist. It couldn't exist in the biology. It couldn't exist in the ecosystem. I'm like every other person out there who's in absolute denial about the species. How could this miracle exist? And when I was just in so much denial that even what happened was I followed them around and just shut my mouth and listened to these two people that were leading the expedition for 2 days. Then I filmed video 3 with them. So that was my second encounter filmed.
Do this for me. For people who haven't seen the films and have no idea what you're talking about, walk us into that video 2, that encounter. Walk us into what you saw and what you experienced.
Well, they knew where how the group, the day watchers, as we call it, were around the exterior of the group as they slept, because this troop is mostly nocturnal. They seem to move around and do their hunting and foraging and whatnot at night. So they snuck into position by going underground, an underground creek. We went underground through this system of mountains, and then got in between what would have been the female day watcher we called Jane, moving back to the main group, and we were going to film her. And that's what the goal was to film this individual. What we didn't know what was going to happen was Sasquatch are a troop of individuals that are devoted to one another, like chimpanzees and human beings and gorillas. They're devoted. So what actually happened was when she was coming back, the group was coming to her as well. They weren't just going to leave her. So what you're actually seeing in video 2, in my theory, the most likely thing that what is happening is that male, who was about, I'd say just over 8 feet tall, just under 800 pounds, was standing up to let her go past, as in, come on over here, member of the troop. You go this way, you're safe. I got your back. So he stood up, and that's where I got footage of him. And you could hear her kind of crouch down under the mountains, sneaking past. And once she got past him and was going back to the troop safely, he ducked back down and then followed her. He only had to stand up to let her go by. And even what a, I guess for lack of a better term, what a protective gentleman thing to do. Go get your little sister or your, female of the troop. Go get her, make sure she's safe. Let her go past. You got her back because you're the big guy, and defend, right? And so many other things were happening. I mean, we were being owned and dominated by that Sasquatch troop as they came back to collect their individual from the troop. So, the chronicle of it is amazing. I had it up on my website for 7 years, and virtually nobody ever went and read it and looked at it. And so I took it down, and I'm going to put it in the next documentary that I have. It's something that, I have video 2, 3, 4, 5 that are all out there and they're public. They're the ones that you'll see on YouTube. But I've told, like John Bitternagel as an example, I sit down and I explain to him and I show him the write-up of what transpired before, during, and after. And that's why in the documentary he says, after listening to Todd's story and understanding the background, which is so important, I am firmly convinced he has filmed, in fact, portraits of the Sasquatch face, because he sat down and listened to me and I explained it all. And he's like, oh my God, you guys went through hell. You don't just walk out in the bush and go, look, a Sasquatch, and film it. That's not what happened. It was months of preparation, years of hard work, risking your life, backcountry, dangerous stuff that you should never do alone. And it's been hell. It's been hard. And but that's what it takes to get this done. And that's why I don't think too many people are actually doing it.
And
so
let me ask you, when you saw that, let's say the term Sasquatch doesn't exist. No one knows what you're talking about, or Bigfoot doesn't exist. What would you describe to them? So you saw the female and then you saw the male. How would you describe them to someone who has never seen one? They have no clue what you're talking about.
A new word that I just learned from some Nakota Cree Indians that are mentoring right now. I would have called it Winchestatunga, which means giant person. I would have explained it as a giant person. They look like people that are thick and heavy and gigantic. So in English, I would have said giant person, but in the Nakota First Nations language, I would have said Winchestatunga, which is I love that term. That's really sticking with me. So
yeah, no, and I guess that's a good way to describe it. If you and I don't know your video. I don't know video 2, video 3, so you have to forgive me a little bit on that. Video 2, sure. Is it the one that stands up and walks?
That's right.
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah, he just stands up and you see him all there. That's why I believe he's standing up to let the female go past. That's who we were there to film, was her. if he hadn't come back, if he just let her go back to the main group, she would have snuck right past us and we would have never had any footage. Even to show that the best plans just can go wrong so easily, right? We thought we were in good position, but we weren't. She would have easily gone past. And if he just would have let her stay behind her, if he would have said, okay, there you are, if he would have stayed ducked down and they would have moved together, we would have never filmed a Sasquatch. It was because he stood up and let her move past. And if you can really understand how significant that is, he put himself in, he knew damn well we were going to see him. He wasn't afraid because he had other Sasquatch watching us. But I don't know, isn't that, what animal would do that? You know, not even, they didn't even call to her in the distance, say, come on over here. No. He ran to her and then let her come to him, and he stood up and let her walk past. I mean, it's a gentleman. It's a protective fathering thing to do. It's family. And that's what every group of Sasquatch that I study, it's family devotion to one another. That's why you don't go shoot one of these creatures, these beings, these hominids. Don't go shoot them, man, because you are going to die. You do not take these guys on. You don't try to injure them or harm them, because they are absolutely devoted to one another. And not unlike chimpanzees and gorillas, or even more specifically, not unlike human beings. Go shoot a man and see what his son does to you, or, you know, his family. So they are devoted.
And I want to come back to that, because I disagree a little bit on that. I think, well, actually a lot on that.
Sure.
I think someone should shoot one of these things. And I think if most people are worried about these things and worried about their numbers, which I think their numbers are growing, I don't think their numbers are shrinking by any means. But that's my own personal opinion, and I can't prove that on paper. But I think, honestly, to prove one of these things, and we can get to your court case, because I want to hear about your court case, in order to protect these things, in order to prove that they exist, and that's why I really wanted to talk to you, in my mind, I think one of these things has to be shot. Now, do I take great pride in saying that? No, not really. You know, I think taking a life, as I get older, maybe I'm getting softer in my old age, but I think that's the way it has to be in order to prove these things. It's just the way it has to be. You know, you can do it with DNA. DNA doesn't prove anything nowadays. Anyway, it seems like. You can do it with videos. You can do it with photos. Look what they did with you with photos. Everything's photoshopped. It's Todd in a mask. It's this, it's that. And that's what they do with videos, and that's what they do with photos. And even if it's legitimate, they're still going to question it. So in my mind, I really think one of these things has to be shot. And I actually want to get back to the encounter, but you're welcome to respond to that.
Oh, yeah, no, you can't. The groups that I study, first of all, when I go to study a group of Sasquatch, I've tried to study many, and when they're aggressive with me and they're not receptive to me, I leave. Certain troops, I studied them in Montana, I studied them in southern Alberta. They were very aggressive and wouldn't let me come around. And so, you know, I didn't pursue it there. The three groups that I'm studying now are very receptive to me. They're very agreeable, and but you just can't. You can actually, there are species now, there's precedent set where there's species of gibbons, and the new species of orangutan has been identified only entirely based on DNA. So the United Nations does it, and the world is doing it. They're accepting species based on DNA. There's no reason we can't do this with Sasquatch. And if I do, even imagine in the beginning when we were taking gorilla specimens, to go have a baby gorilla, ask Diane Fossey how she feels about that. A whole troop of gorilla need to be assassinated to go get one individual baby to come back. And when you start shooting, I mean, for me, it's awful and terrible. You can't. Why start a war? Why do we have to be so angry about it? If there's a troop, the only way you could shoot a Sasquatch and not go to war and have people actually get injured and hurt is by finding a rogue male or a rogue female that's wandering around looking for a troop. Now you're talking about a needle in 10,000 haystacks. That's never going to happen. You're never going to find that. So to repeatedly find where a group is going to be, you have to find where the group is in their territory. If you go in to take on a group of Sasquatch who knows the territory, who are the ultimate trackers, the apex species and very intelligent, to go in and shoot one, you're going to have to kill multiple individuals. You have to go to war with them. If you go take on the big male, the black suns will come and fight you. And you're talking about a creature that is incredibly fast, knows its territory. You'd have to do some serious recon. You'd have to put up a serious fight. Lives would be lost. And why the hell do we have to be so angry and hostile and do shit like that? If you've seen my documentary, They're taking apples from me. They came and showed themselves to Jeff Meldrum. They were within 50 yards of Les Stroud on Survivor Man, having a good time, interacting with us. If I just had the simple technology, a thermal drone in the air, we'd be identifying these individuals. We could follow them around for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, gathering scat, numbering individuals. Like the technology is there. It's terribly irresponsible to go out and assassinate one. And I'll tell you, just personally too, this year I took 7 people out with me, and we all had incredible success. They all had some kind of interaction with Sasquatch, which was an amazing gift because they chose to do that. They chose to come around us. They're teaching us how to interact with them. And every time when I leave there, I get teary-eyed. I feel emotional. Because even like in Survivor Man Bigfoot, the season 1 or 2, those Sasquatch came around and live interacted with us. They purposely left tracks for us. They purposely came around and showed themselves to us. For me to go and assassinate one of these creatures after they're extending the olive branch to me would make me a person that I couldn't live with myself. So I have an affection for them. I have an affinity for them. I have a deep respect for them. And easily, like, for God's sake, if my documentary just sold $1 million worth of DVD sales, which it won't, and which it's not, because I'm not getting support publicly, and people think I'm a liar and a faker or whatever the hell they think. But if it just paid for itself, I would go out and prove this species is real. The technology exists. The ability is there. We can get this done responsibly, and killing them is just so far out of the question for me. It would be worse than killing even a human being. Some people need to be shot. And these Sasquatch are, I'm sure that there are bad Sasquatch that do bad things. There are bad people that do bad things. But these troops that I study, I have such an affection for them. And anybody who comes out with me and spends a week in the field with them, you can't help but feel it. You go through trials and tribulations, and at the end of the day, when you leave, it's like, wow, I feel the affection. I feel this power that they have. They're magnificent creatures, and I would never want to harm one. They do die. There's bodies that we can find. This can be done. It's going to happen.
And I'm okay with finding a body. And like I said, I don't disagree with everything you just said. I don't disagree with it. I think if you're going to shoot one, you better load the chamber, because you're probably going to have to shoot another one, if not 2 or 3, by the time it's all said and done. But I think
actually would die, though. I think, they know what a gun is. They know what a gun is. They know what aggressive behavior is. You move into an area loaded for bear, pointing your gun, they're going to move away from you, and you better hope they move away from you, because if you don't, they throw rocks with deadly accuracy at 200 yards. If you ever saw how fast these Sasquatch move, it's going to blow your mind. And they are not gorillas. Gorillas are vegetarians. You're talking about a hunter who hunts and kills. These guys take on bears one-on-one and have no problem. They take on wolves. They take on mountain lions. You are dealing with a whole new level of abilities that are going to blow your mind. So I've actually had, rangers and professional military people come to me and say, hey, let's go kill one. And then when I sit down with them and I show them the reality of going out there and hunting them, they agree. I think we wouldn't survive. With our technology, with all that we have, it'd be rolling the dice. They might win this first battle. So lives are going to be lost. And it's so not necessary. You can't, just make sure you understand, though, you're not taking on a grizzly bear. This is
I'm fully aware of that. The point I'm trying to make is, though, you can get, for example, the $1 million on your DVD and go buy all the drones you want in the world, and you can take all the pictures you want in the world, and you can take all the videos you want in the world. They're going to come back and say you lied. They're going to come back and say you CGI'd it. They're going to come back
You know what, though, Wes? This is actually what I would do, though, is if I'm following them around with drones, you're going to see them hunting elk and killing elk. You're going to see them crossing rivers, leaving tracks with dermal ridges. You're going to see them defecating. And if I can get fresh scat, when I go back and say, not only do I have DNA from 4 unknown individuals of an unknown species, but this is the brother, this is the mother, this is the uncle, this is the track size, these are the tracks with the dermal ridges, these are the elk that they've been eating, these are the chew marks. Like when it really comes back with all the evidence that I have, nobody's going to deny that. And I'm never going to say, look at this and take my word for it. I'm going to say, like I'm saying right now, the reason I'm doing the court case is don't take my word for it. Come out with me in the field and I will show you a Sasquatch. I've been doing it for a decade. I've taken the best in the world out. Ian Redmond, the top primatologist in the world, was going to go out with me until he got attacked and seriously injured by an elephant. Because if Ian Redman, the man who took over when Dian Fossey was killed or murdered, the man who is the top primatologist in the world, I was going to take him out into the field, and I still will. And he will see a Sasquatch and live interact with a Sasquatch and come back, just like Jeff Meldrum, like everybody else. Wow. So.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Well, I want to go back to your encounter. So you're not really a firm believer these things exist. You guys just filmed this thing up walking on the ridgeline, stand up. I'm sure most people have seen it, and it's available on YouTube. I'll put it underneath this episode. But you filmed this. What's going through your mind?
Which video is this?
The video 2 you were talking about. When you see the things, the male stand
up.
When I
see it?
Yeah, what's going through your mind?
First thing, that's the man in the suit. That's the Indian with the big thing on. I wanted to film him. What happens is I point the camera up, like I'm looking, I point, and I film him, and I see him squat down. The camera goes down after that because I ran up that hill right where he was, and my partner stayed down on the embankment to kind of block off any retreat from a different direction, because I knew that was a dead end up there. You'd have to jump like across a mountain like a human being couldn't do. So I ran up there to find the man in the suit. And when I saw they were gone, and I saw that they rock climbed like no man could do and jumped like 8 meters over a river like no man can do, and there's no other way. There was no ropes. There's nothing. When they escaped through a route where no man could go, and then as a tracker, I looked at the ground, and I saw heavy imprints from a large bipedal creature. And as a tracker, you got to go, a man can't do that, because a man doesn't weigh 800 pounds and have even, it's not just 800 pounds, it's the power in those quadriceps to move that the push that crushes into the ground. When I got up there and I saw that, I was just in shock. I remember being in the moment going, almost stuttering, like the tracks can't be faked. A man couldn't have escaped. Nothing could do this. Nothing, no known species could leave those tracks and escape through that route. Nothing could do that. So I was, for the first time in my life, that was a little light that was shining on me. And I guess I was blinded by it, this could really be real. And what a miracle it is if they exist. It was almost like I was punched in the face, is a better way to explain it. That night, the Sasquatch came around, and I had another experience that, I heard it come around, I heard it touch the tent, and then I woke everybody up and we went out. And in pitch black, I heard a Sasquatch run through a bush that faster than any man could and scale a rock wall that no man could do. And in the morning, I found the trackway, and I was like, no man could do this. No man is this heavy. No man could run at this stride length, and no man could run up this cliff in 30 seconds like I heard it. So again, I felt like I was punched in the face. I remember even feeling like dizzy, going, how could this be? How could I have been wrong? How could this species exist? It's not, the not possible, the impossible was starting to sink into my head. And, it took me years to get over that. It took me years before I could look somebody in the face and say, Sasquatch is real, because I was in such denial about it. But I would grind my teeth and say it because it's the truth, and you have to speak the truth. And as much as it pained me to say it, people would look at me and say, are Sasquatch real? And I would grind my teeth and go, yes, because it's the truth.
After that night, what happened? Did you guys experience any more, or did you guys up and leave?
No, we went out and started working on the preparations for video 3. And again, I was only following where I was being led. The 2 gentlemen that were there, I mean, they knew the Sasquatch were there. They had no doubt, and they had a plan how to get footage for them. So I was just listening and doing what I was told, and I was being led. And what happened was it led to another theory that they had to film a different day watcher, which is the Sasquatch you'll see in video 3. He's a male, about 7'4", maybe 500 pounds ish. And in video 3, what you see is, and what was so significant about that footage was it's moving bipedally, but no human being can move that fast. I had it analyzed by motion experts, kineticists, and people that understand the physics of human movement. And they get back to me and they go, whatever that is, because it's not a man in a suit, it's moving bipedally like only a man can, but moving faster than any human being can move. And I'll tell you, when you watch video 3, again, it wasn't quite the plan because that Sasquatch was in a spot where it got there so fast we couldn't believe it. And the plan was to have it run across right towards us, and we were going to be hiding on the other side of a creek where he couldn't see us. He didn't do that. And you know what? I remember the plan, and I remember when that Sasquatch moved out from behind the trees. And I remember in my mind thanking God that it didn't come towards me, because I would have dropped the camera and run. I couldn't handle any more of what was going on, because at that point I was convinced Sasquatch are real, and that is a Sasquatch over there. And I'll tell you, he ran away. Like, you see him running kind of away from me off in a different direction in video 3. And I've never said this before, but I'll tell you, I thank God he didn't come towards me. If he would have come towards me, I would have run away. I would have dropped that camera. You could actually hear me when I see the Sasquatch move on camera. I go, oh, oh. That sound is terror. Like, it's engripped me. Like, I didn't want to be there anymore. I wanted to hit my little beam up badge like Star Trek and go, Scotty, beam me up, because I didn't want to be there anymore. But the Sasquatch ran away, and somehow I kept that camera panning on him, and I followed him as best I could. And it was after that experience was over, I told those 2 guys, I'm like, we are leaving now, because I cannot handle this anymore. It's too much. I need to get out of here. My whole paradigm has shifted. Everything I was built on. I felt like even science and all the anthropology and all the wilderness knowledge I had all just been collapsed. All its foundation was gone, because wolves are not the apex species, and bears don't run things out here. It's Sasquatch, and they are real, and they live in North America, and we bloody well don't know it. How stupid are we? You know?
And I'll put all these videos below this episode, Todd, but I appreciate sharing it. So that's what kind of started your quest on, obviously your paradigm had shifted. You knew that they were real. Did you start going out all the time and looking for them, or was it just going back to this one area?
No, first of all, I couldn't go back to that research site. The Native Americans that lay claim to that land and were mentoring me kicked me out, told me not to come back. Men with guns showed up. It just turned into a big mess. So I went looking for a new research site after that. But even to be honest, I was slow to move forward because, first I went to biologists. I was talking to wildlife officers and biologists and trying to show them and tell them the species is real, and I can show them the species. So I spent years doing that, and also years readjusting my life. My girlfriend at the time left me. She told me if I was going to do Bigfoot research, that wasn't going to be part of her life. So I lost, somebody who was very important to me. She was okay with me going out and proving they don't exist. She said, the day you come back and are one of those kooky guys with the casts and all that stuff, this relationship is over. And I didn't blame her. And I never thought it would come to that. But when I came back and said, they're real, and just that was it. It was a lot of pain, a lot of different. I quit my job at one point to go do this research full time years ago. I mean, in the beginning, I thought this was going to take me a year to get this done and prove it. I thought biologists would come out with me. I thought the world would listen when I had all this evidence. I had no idea that I was going to hit the wall of denial and disbelief, because I did, have you ever heard anybody saying what I say, Les? Don't take my word for it. Come out, show you a Sasquatch. I thought that was an original statement.
Yeah, a few people have said that, but it's pretty rare to get someone to say that.
Sure.
Most people don't say that.
And I do it. Ask Les Stroud. Ask Jeff Meldrum. Ask, the list goes on and on. All these people, I take them out and show them Sasquatch. And when they're out, something happens. I know people are listening going, oh, this is just bull. Todd's got a buddy running around the bush and blah, blah, blah. You have no idea what you're talking about. I take these people out. They're like, most of them go, I've never been so remote in my whole life. And you see bear scat, and there are mountain lions and deer. You don't go running around the bush wearing a Sasquatch costume. You'll die. And Les Stroud is my friend. He's a mentor. If I was such a scumbag piece of dirt that I would fool and trick a mentor and friend of mine who I am so grateful to help me, you know what I mean? And there's no fooling Survivor Man. Did you hear what I just said? I said his name is Survivor Man. The man is a boots on the ground expert. He's a genius. He's amazing at what he does. Nobody is going to fool him. Nobody. Certainly not me. Les met my family. He met my wife. He took pictures with my stepchildren. He stayed at my, came to my house and had dinner. Like Les became like part of my family for years. He helped me in so many ways. He mentored me, took me under his wing. I'll always be grateful. And people are saying I'm tricking and fooling this man. What kind of a scumbag do you think I am? Like these things are beyond. It's just not possible. I'm not fooling these people. I'm not fooling anybody. I take people out for a week, intelligent human beings for a week, and they come back convinced beyond any doubt. This is authentic research, man. Like this is the real deal. You don't fake this stuff. It's, so that's where I'm at.
No, I understand. And like I said, there's one picture that you had, and everyone said it looked like Michael Jackson. I hope that didn't seem too racist, but for some reason, everyone thinks you know what I'm talking about. And I'll post a picture below. But I had a guy in Texas one time contact me, and he's telling me his whole encounter. He didn't want to come on the show, and I asked him. I said, "What is it that you saw?" And he sent me your picture. And it really threw me off because I hadn't heard anyone really describe a Sasquatch looking like that before. And when he looked at it, he goes, "That's exactly what I saw. It's exactly what I saw." And so when you took those pictures, and the two pictures I'm talking about, how close were you? And were you worried? I mean,
Oh, yeah. It was I got in there. I got that close to the group. I was actually moving towards the main group where I'd never been before. It's kind of like holy ground where the young ones are and the females are. So I was moving towards that group, and what happened, in my theory is anyways, the males went out looking for me, and I had deterred them and moved them off in a different direction. I had a fake area where they thought I was. I left tracks there, and I snuck up the mountain. I was moving towards the main group, and I believe the females created a perimeter and we're standing there watching as like a last line of defense. So that's what you see is that female, and she wasn't aware of me being there. So I was hidden, not just in a ghillie suit, but I had like a full cloak over me, I was like a moving island of debris that was very, very well hidden, moving very slowly. And I was actually under a tree. And what happened that is so significant is it's direct sunlight. So the sun came out and all the snow from the snowstorm was melting very fast. It went from below 0 to plus 10. So all the snow that's under the tree is dripping on me and splattering down and melting, which is great sound cover. But as I'm trying to film her, the splatter gets on my lens to the point where it just doesn't, you can't see through the camera anymore. So I put down my main camera and went to my backup camera because there's a Sasquatch right there, and she may not stay in view for much longer. So I went to my backup camera, which was set for nighttime filming. It's not a video camera, it's a photographic camera. And so I pointed that camera that's set for nighttime filming and took photographs in direct sunlight. So the photos are terrible. They look awful. You don't take a camera that's set for nighttime and take daytime shots. It's ridiculous. You should have the highest neutral density filter and set to the lowest. You know what I mean? It was set to the opposite, but I took those pictures anyway because that's a Sasquatch, and have a good day. And I had no experience with this camera, but those are the very bad photos that are out there that look terrible. The skin looks bad. That's why they compare it to Michael Jackson. But that Michael Jackson photograph was not, if you know anything about videography or photography, you don't take photographs in direct sunlight. It bleaches and destroys the shot. Destroys it. Nobody does it. So, but when there's a Sasquatch in front of you, the rarest probably creature that exists, you take the shot. You shut your mouth, you take the shot, and have a good day. And perhaps I shouldn't have put those photos out, but because they didn't do me well for legitimacy because it looked terrible. But I'm not a photographer, I'm a videographer. There's a big difference. And I know that's a Sasquatch. And since then, I'll tell you what you're telling me about this gentleman calling you and saying, "Hey, that's what the Sasquatch I saw looked like." That's happened to me hundreds of times. I get emails every week about that. That is exactly the Sasquatch I saw. I've seen people email me and say, "Oh, I've seen Sasquatch and it didn't look like the Patterson. It looked exactly like this photograph you took." So I am happy I took that photo. I don't have any regrets ultimately in the end. But yeah, it's Sasquatch, and it's if you ever can imagine what I'm so excited. I'm so proud that I was ever able to accomplish that. And it's out there, and what's the next step?
Yeah. No, and I appreciate you sharing the story. I was always curious. I never heard that before, actually.
Oh, and no one has it. That's a moon cast shadow to the months of preparation. the failed expeditions. I could go on for hours about just that one expedition. And that was actually a failed expedition as well. I was lucky I got those shots. And after that failed expedition with those poor shots, I can't do it again, because now they adjust their movements, and they adjust their counter strategy or their counter surveillance strategy to make sure that I don't do that again. So all those years of hard work and all the failed expeditions, that's all I got was video 4 at that time. I had to come up with a whole new strategy for success. So even I should tell you, the coolest thing, this is a question that's only been posed to me recently, is why didn't you go up there after you filmed that Sasquatch? Because you go up there, you could, see tracks on the ground. You can, get a relative size comparison. Yeah. Because what happened was the reason I stopped filming is a Sasquatch grabbed hold of my ankle and pulled me out from the ghillie cloak that I had, pulled me out of there. So I flipped around, saw trees moving. A Sasquatch just pulled me out. So, and now that female that was up on the ridge is gone. They know where I am. He pulled me out of my ghillie suit. Incredible, amazing, shocking experience. So now I stand up, I get my bearings, and I loosen up because I'm all stiff and half frozen, haven't eaten in days. And I prepare to go up the mountain where I filmed that Sasquatch, because believe me, I'm going up there. And it's only 40, 50 yards away. I could, it'd take me 5 minutes. I'm going up there. So as I move to go up that mountain, a rock blasts at me and hits me just below my glute and my upper hamstring and drops me. It felt like a bullet hit me, drops me. Like I'm on the ground for 10, 15 minutes. I have a huge welt. It's extremely painful. And I'm like, a Sasquatch just smoked a rock at me. What the hell is going on here? But I am a human being and I'm not too smart. So what do? After the pain goes away where I could almost move around again, I go to walk up there one more time. This time, a boulder goes past my head, misses me by just inches, and explodes in the mountain in front of me. And I stop and go, wait a second. I think he's trying to tell me something. Don't go that way anymore. So you know what I did? I didn't go up that hill anymore, because when a boulder explodes in front of you and the debris like smacks into my face like little bits of bullet, you realize he doesn't want you to go there, and I don't think the next boulder is going to miss my head. So I turned my ass around and went back down the hill as they followed me and intimidated me. And there's even shots of boulders being thrown at me that I've filmed and shown people. If you go the wrong way out of their habitat, they let you know. And if you continue to go the wrong way, I don't think you'll survive, because it's their home, and you better shut up and listen to them, because they're the dominant species in this area. And so that's why I didn't go up there. I didn't get to go up there, because the Sasquatch taught me a little lesson that day.
Let me ask you, so it pulls you out, the Sasquatch pulls you out. Was the creature just take out? Did the creature leave after that, or was it?
He walked. He just basically grabbed my ankle, and I actually saw this. I have footage of a gorilla doing this to a park ranger that blew me away. What happens is, so I'm under the tree in my ghillie suit, and I'm totally covered, and I feel something reach in underneath the ghillie suit and grab my ankle, and then like nothing, pull me. I'm 230 pounds, pull me like I'm nothing right out from under the tree. I came right out of my ghillie suit. And what happens is you panic, right? You go, you're kind of off balance, you're flipping around. So as soon as I could, when I'm pulled out from underneath the tree in the ghillie suit, I feel the hand release my ankle, and I spin as fast as I can to look, and all I see is shaking trees. So I thought, oh my God, he ran away. Then I saw it happen to the gorilla ranger, the exact same situation. And you know what? When that park ranger turned around exactly as I did, as fast as he could, all he saw was a shaking tree, and that gorilla just walked off. Because it takes you that 2 seconds to get your bearings. Yeah. So, he just walked away from me, and right into the wilderness, right into the bush. There's shaking trees, and there's a trackway right there, vividly, clearly a Sasquatch footprint. And you give your head a shake, get your bearings, and wipe my cameras down, and the Sasquatch are there. They're making sounds. They're banging rocks. They're grunting at me. All that stuff is happening, and I have footage of all this stuff. So
No, that's fascinating. I'm glad you shared that story. Thank you for sharing that. I want to go into some of these questions, and they'll actually go into your court case, and I want to talk about the court case. But Joe, I believe it's Joe, he's on the website. He said, "Can you ask Todd if do you have anything beyond pictures, eyewitness testimony,
yes,
that sort of thing, what that could actually stick in court?" That's what Joe's question is.
DNA, absolutely. My DNA is going up in court. So a DNA of something that's a hominid that doesn't fit into the human category whatsoever. So the problem with DNA that I've discovered just in my own research is the way the DNA goes with so gorillas are on the left, chimpanzees are closer to humans, and then you get humans on the right-hand side. And what people were expecting was they were expecting Sasquatch to fall in between human beings and chimpanzees, or human beings and bonobos. But that's not the case. They're further over to the right, further away from the African apes, obviously even further from the Asian ape, which is the orangutan. But they are more, I guess even, that's what the problem with the DNA is, it shows a more advanced hominid. And when you think about the reality of it, it doesn't surprise me. Sasquatch, if I take a Sasquatch and throw him out in the wilderness, I come back in 10 years, he's going to thrive and survive because he doesn't need fire. He can survive in equilibrium. He's a wild creature that survives in the wilderness with no technology. If I took Survivor Man, probably one of the best survivalists in the world, threw him naked in the wilderness and left him there, likely he'll be dead in a week, unless he reverts back to his technology, to his spears and fire and stuff like that. And a Sasquatch doesn't need that. So my point is, they're more advanced wilderness survivalists than human beings are, and even moved further away from the evolution of the African primates than human beings have. So that DNA will be presented, as well as Jimmy Chilcott and physical evidence with the tracks. Jimmy Chilcott from Sasquatch Meets Science, I believe is the documentary name. He's the one that testifies and says Sasquatch really can't fake these things. He's coming with tracks, the best tracks ever cast, the Walla Walla, Washington tracks, I believe is what they are. And what's significant about them, so significant, is tracks were cast, one set from one individual from, let's say, 1990, and that same individual was cast 5 years later. So now you have cuts in the dermal ridges that have, as the Sasquatch walks around and moves around, it ages, the foot ages, and cuts are in the dermal ridges. And so that evidence, that physical evidence, will also be presented. So
yeah, and I think Jimmy is a fingerprint expert. Is that what he is?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's also studied primates, like gorillas and chimpanzees and humans, which also is amazing testimony because the dermal ridges on a Sasquatch move differently than all other known primates. So all the evidence moves dramatically towards supporting. Even actually Jeff Meldrum's physical evidence of his tracks. Jeff Meldrum, that amazing human being that he is, that bugger went and had the scientific community accept the footprints of tracks, the tracks of Sasquatch as from a living individual. So scientific community may not accept the fact that Sasquatch exists, but they accept the fact that the tracks of Sasquatch exists. So he snuck his way in there through the back door. But man, what Jeff Meldrum has been accomplishing over the last few years, wow, he is my hero for good reason. He has physical evidence and morphology of a foot from a Sasquatch that's been scientifically accepted. I think when Dr. Meldrum sits on the stand and comes and testifies to this, I think, there will be more. But you know what? That's it. When that man speaks and shows the evidence that he has, and the fact that I showed him a Sasquatch and all the stuff that happened in the documentary, that's why the documentary is so significant. It's proof of me showing people Sasquatch in the field. I think just after that alone, the court case is done. Jimmy Chilcott, DNA, and eyewitness accounting is just icing on the cake. Was it, and it's a question one of the listeners has here on the website, was the DNA, was it something you collected? And if so, what was it that you collected? Well, I collected it on Survivor Man Bigfoot. Season 2, Les talks about specially designed DNA traps that I built out of the natural foliage. Les himself said they were quite ingenious. And it was those hairs that we gathered that day. He even talks about the DNA in that episode, that they came back as, 90% human, which I think is, he misspoke that. It's not precisely that, but anyways, it's just it's fascinating. Brick in the wall, And Mark F wants to know, ask Todd, he's got a couple questions here for you. What is the name of his case? Standing versus who? The defendants are the Department of Fish and Wildlife, and in Canada, it's the Minister of Environment. The other question here he has, and I'm not really sure why he's at, but I guess I'll ask it. What is his argument for standing? Right.
What will a judge ruling in his favor resolve legally for him?
Well, standing is that I have to show that there's been damage personally done to me. That's what is tough about this case, is I needed to prove damages. And what I recently talked about on my YouTube channel, and I'll tell you right now, is with the long process of discussions and figuring precedents out, we have standing because I don't know, people are getting a chuckle out of that. My name's Todd Standing, and we have standing. We have it though because my documentary did not sell. I cannot take people out on expeditions. Discovery Channel and History Channel and OLN and a dozen different networks have all turned me down for TV shows and dumped my documentary because Sasquatch is not real. Discovery Channel and History Channel do factual documentaries. Sasquatch is not recognized by Fish and Wildlife as an indigenous species, and since they don't recognize it, I cannot make a living, and it affects my livelihood to take people out and show them Sasquatch, to sell my documentary, to live as a wildlife videographer, which is my favorite thing to do. And I can't live my livelihood because they don't accept the species is real, and nobody will pay to buy my footage like people pay to buy footage of bears and elk and all this stuff because they refuse to accept the species exists. That's my standing. Now it affects my livelihood. And it's true. It's absolutely true. I can get the president of History Channel to go testify. Yes, we would have played Todd Standing's documentary and given him hundreds of thousands of dollars for it, except we only do factual documentaries. And according to BC Fish and Wildlife, who are the authority in the matter, this species does not factually exist. According to them, my stuff must be fake because they don't exist. So my films must be a hoax because according to them, they don't exist. And now it's defamation of character. They're affecting my livelihood, which is absolutely true. And now I have standing. And believe me, all that matters, Wes, the only thing that matters is a judge lets us go to court. If a judge finds that I have standing and this can go to court, I'll win. How can I lose? I think I could bog them down for 20 years with eyewitness testimony until the judge just says enough. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you a question playing devil's advocate. And Mark's question kind of goes into this next one. Have you thought about the negative impact of this thing being presented as real? And what I mean by that, Mark actually brought up a good point. I'll summarize what he said. He said, if my neighbor takes two blurry pictures of Sasquatch, the lady down the road from me claims she saw a Sasquatch in my pool. Now my pool is protected habitat. How do I reverse that so I get my pool back? Now, I understand the argument. It's kind of a ridiculous argument, but Mark has a great point. I mean, the illustration is a little odd, but you know what I mean. Mark has a good point. Now, what is it? Now, let's say someone has these on their property. Does that land now become protected habitat and those people have to move?
Well, no. People own their property. It's, ultimately, there's a better argument. The better argument that really does affect me is what about the damage that we can do in the study? What if, Fish and Wildlife screw things up? Isn't it better just to leave them alone? They've survived on their own. They seem to be doing well enough on their own alone. Why shouldn't we just leave them alone? They want to be left alone. And that's probably true. And 40% of me is on that side. But Sasquatch communicate with me. I see Sasquatch leaving tree breaks on human trails because the Sasquatch are trying to communicate with us. They don't build those structures that are in Survivorman. Those are not built for Sasquatch. Those are built for human beings. They are trying to communicate with us. They communicate with people in attempts all the time, and we don't listen. We don't pay attention. And ultimately, again, in the beginning, I was out really, truly to help the species and protect them. Way back in 2006 when I did the petition. Now, I've changed so much. I'm asking them for help. I think we need their help much more than they need ours. We need to understand this species exists. We need to see how they survive in wilderness. We need to understand that in wilderness is the preservation of the world. And I think they can help us probably more than we can help them. So, and ultimately, though, every argument goes away because I'm built on the foundations of truth. The truth will set you free. The truth is everything. The truth is this species exists and they're real. And that ultimately breaks me over. That's my 60% move forward because the truth will set you free, and we need to know the truth.
I'm with you on that, Todd, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but what drives you? I mean, what honestly drives you in this whole thing? Because obviously for a court case, you got to say it's money, that it's affecting your livelihood. Otherwise, there's no court case. I completely get it.
Sure.
And there's points to that. But what is it really that drives you to do this? I mean, is it, and I'm playing devil's advocate, so just bear with me, Todd, but is it so that you can make a buck off your documentary? You just want to prove they're real so you can send it off to these
I will never,
TV companies?
I will never get back. I will never get back what I've put into this, Wes. We've spent, my colleagues and I have spent $900,000 on this documentary. Never mind the tens of thousands of hours I put into this for free. And I don't want it back. I don't care. What's in it for me is I love the wilderness. I love nature. People are losing it. People are moving away from nature and the wilderness. Why are people watching X-Men movies when Sasquatch would whoop Wolverine's ass, would kick him? You know what I mean? The miracle is right here in front of us, and we don't acknowledge it. And I've tried to quit. I walked away a long time ago, a couple years ago. I thought about leaving, but I love the wilderness. I love the animals. I love the species. And I'm very passionate about it. I just even if I don't have success with this court case and I never really move forward any more than that, I'll still teach my son. You know, I'm a tracker. I love animals. You know, I study. I don't go out in the wilderness to study Sasquatch. I go out in the wilderness to study the wilderness. They just happen to be the apex species, and I can't get away from them. When I go out in the wilderness and I move properly and I adhere to the rules that Sasquatch put out there, they come interact with me. They're very curious about me because I get it, because I have the energy, because I move with the earth. And there's just so much to learn. And that's when people are coming out on these expeditions with me now, that's the majority of what they're doing. They sit down and eat the berries. They survive out there with me. They appreciate the serenity. They drink from the rivers and it cleanses them. They get this calmness in them. And when you get that serenity and that calm, that's when you can really understand the wilderness. And that's what you really need to do to understand Sasquatch if you're not going to study the wilderness, you're not going to study tracks and the trees and the plants and the life there, don't do Sasquatch research, because that's what they are. That's what they love. That's what they're passionate about. And so am I. Period.
Yeah, no, I understand. And again, the question about the court case, I just wanted to clarify that so that people understand, if you've ever gone to court, what Todd's doing is you got to have a reason to bring this to court. And so his reason for it is it's hurting him financially. And there's only so many reasons you can bring a court case, and that's one of them. But, you know, I understand you're passionate about it. That's not really the real reason why you're wanting to prove they're real. It's you're passionate about it. And, you know, there's a lot of things. I got a couple more questions for you. There's a lot of things that I think happen out there in the wilderness. I think that Sasquatch have taken people. I think Sasquatch have harmed people. And I won't even necessarily say it was justified. It's not like they just took a shot at him, or they obviously were in the wrong place at the wrong time. But I think that goes on. And I think the government knows that goes on, and they look the other way because it's too much of a pain in the ass to come out and say this is real. So they spend more time covering it up. I think there's more to it than that. But generally speaking, that's my general statement. I think.
Sure. And bears kill people every year. Mountain lions kill people every year. You know, we don't eradicate them. We accept and acknowledge them, and people love and appreciate those amazing species because they are amazing. But they are predators.
But what is a Sasquatch?
The apex species, you know, and the probably the most difficult thing that we can't understand is when we study primates like gorillas, orangutans. The gorillas and orangutans, chimps, are very violent. They have serious violent tendencies, and they're not even hunters. And if you really understand the difference between a hunter loves deer, they love elk, they love the bighorn, and they kill it horribly, like shoot it, kill it, eat it. I learned a long time ago, because there are a lot of First Nations and Native Americans that I deal with. A long time ago, a hunter that kills and loves his quarry kills, no question about it. They kill deer. And I remember a hunter telling me this once, because this guy didn't want me to prove Sasquatch was real. And he told me right straight, he says, you know what? I'm one of the best hunters and killers of elusive species in the world. He hunts and kills deer like nothing. He says, and I don't like you. How do you think I'm going to feel to put an arrow through you and kill you efficiently and easily? So, you know, don't mess with a hunter. And he's right. And it was scary. That's no threat, man. He doesn't like me. He doesn't like white people. And, he could kill me so fast. Like, he's a professional killer. He kills and hunts to survive. And that's what Sasquatch are. They kill and hunt with their bare hands or maybe with a rock. So if you think they're not dangerous, if you think there's not going to be the odd Sasquatch that's like, loves killing, then, you're living in a dream world. There are bears that are good and some bears that are just murderous killers. I know one. I deal with one on my research site every year. He's a son of a bitch. He kills females. He kills cubs. He's awful. But that's what bears are. That's what they do. And sometimes you'll hit the gentle ones that are nicer and exist better in society. And then you'll get the odd ones that are, human beings are like that. Do we have serial killers? Do we have bad people in society? Look at the jails. They're full of them.
Todd, do you think the government's covering up Sasquatch?
Officially, I don't like to ruffle anybody's feathers and be a jerk about things, but I say no comment. Of course they know about it. Of course it's going to affect industry. It's going to cost millions. But that's not my job. Of course it's my concern, but those are such big questions. And the truth is they do exist right now within the systems that log and mine and all that. So it doesn't have to be such a big deal. I don't want industry shut down. Industry is not it's not my thing. It's not my issue. My issue is they exist, and it would be nice if we would consider the Sasquatch before we dam up a river and stop the flow of salmon, because perhaps they're eating those salmon. So, there are very legitimate things that you talked about earlier. You think the populations of Sasquatch are good. I couldn't disagree with you more. I know of a group that I studied in Morley that have left because of the logging, that were seriously affected. I believe the male died off and the female had to go, squander off like a dog with its tail between its legs into some new territory because all of her land was logged. And I saw this happen, and it was devastating. It ruined my research of this group of Sasquatch because of the logging. So of course it does affect them, but there are a lot bigger questions. I'm just a little guy. I'm just a humble little dude, I just want the truth. And it's the responsibility of biologists and fish and wildlife to make those decisions and do the right things. And we'll pose those questions as they come. But I am the opposite. I strongly feel like we are affecting their population. And that argument, one way or another, people say they're doing fine. People say that, well, I disagree. But there's no argument that a study needs to be done. They exist here. They're an indigenous species as much as deer and elk and owls. They have rights. And what if they're sentient?
I think I think you better prepare for a tax audit.
Oh my God. Yeah. All that stuff is coming. It is, there's stuff going on that it's very clear to me. There are things going on that I'm being blocked, and even PhDs that I work with, really great men, are coming back going, Todd, you're being covered up, dude. Like, this is not cool. Like, the haters from 2014 are being pumped out on Google. And I do a story, on major networks on RTT, Russian TV, and nobody hears about it. And it's not on the internet, even though thousands of people should be going, and it should be search engineering right to the top. It doesn't exist. It's about some douche who's talking some sort of smack that doesn't make any sense, but he's a hater and he's right at the top. So, my video, why are they being buried? They were getting hundreds of thousands of views every day. Now I'm down to thousands of views. Somebody literally, and you can look at my analytics on YouTube, somebody literally flicked a switch and said, no, bury that. Right when it became important. It's important that people watch my documentary. It's important that people know about this court case. And right now, when it's the most important, my viewership is at the worst it has ever been. I didn't do interviews for 2 years, and I was getting 20,000 views a day on my YouTube channel. Now I've done all this media, all this news, and I'm getting 2,000 views a day? What? Who flicked that switch? And there's a dozen other things I could talk about, right? But I push forward, and it's something I have to do. And at the end of the day, I do fail. I have failed before. I will fail again. But at least at the end of my time, when my time is done, I will look people in the eye, look my son straight in the eye and say, kiddo, your dad did everything he could. and I have no regrets. Now it's your turn.
Well, I can respect that.
That's my dream.
I can respect that a lot. Like I said, I think it's covered up. I think they'll squash you before you get into court. But again, I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm 110% wrong. I don't think I am, but you better get those taxes in order, man.
I make so little money. They can come after me if they want. I paid my taxes, and I'm a humble guy. I have a regular job. I don't make much money. They can do what they want. They can come after me. I have something that I have to do, and I don't know if people. One of the coolest questions I was asked this year is, why do you do it? Why do you keep pushing? Why do you go through this? The hatred, the people calling you a liar, all the crap you have to go through, the terrible interviews that you have to drudge through. And you know what the answer is? God's honest truth. I don't feel like I have a choice. I have to go here. There's no choice. And I don't know if people can understand that. Why are you an actor? Why are you, a mechanic in a shop? Well, because they didn't have a choice. They had to do it. There was no choice for me, Wes. I don't know how I can I tried to quit. I couldn't. I went back out in the wilderness for a hike, and there was a Sasquatch whooping at me and hanging out and leaving tracks. And I'm like, I can't not do this. I have to know that I did the best I could and beyond that. And
like I said, I can respect that. I can actually respect that a lot. And it goes back to your credit, man. I don't know that I'd have the balls to take it to court because, well, I think I know what's coming. But I respect the fact that you do it. I mean, my hat goes off to you. I mean, there's nothing more I can say. My hat goes off to you for it.
If you're not going to go into a fight knowing that you can lose, don't go into the fight. And I know that I'm going to get a bloody nose. I know I'm going to get some hard shots, and I am willing to, how hard is it to sit down with my family and go, hey guys, we've had a rough decade or so where I keep putting you through this, and we keep, we've had some really hard times, some lean years because I keep doing this. And now, if I lose this court case, it's going to be devastating to us financially, devastating. Tens of thousands of dollars I will owe. I'll spend years paying this back. But I'm asking you as my family, because I love you guys and you mean the world to me, I think I really need to do this. And I feel like I don't have a choice. And is this going to be the last thing? I sure hope so, because I don't have much fight left in me. But I'm fully prepared to give this everything I got and then some. And I wouldn't do it also if I didn't think I couldn't win. And I know I can win. I'm so confident. So I'm going to go give it a fight. And with species protection, I failed 3 times before that. People don't know this, but in 2007, I gathered signatures for species protection, and I had it certified and tabled and read in the Canadian House of Commons. That's our Congress. Read it and voted on it. And I failed that 10 times before the successful one went through. I had to do that over and over and over. It cost me tens of thousands of dollars. I had to make a documentary, show it to people before they'd sign my petition. But even though that succeeded, in the end, it failed. Well, but I did the best I could. There's really nothing more I can do. And that's what I need to do with this court.
Well, and that's why I respect what you're doing, because I think if you lose, you're out a ton of money. If you win, what have you really won? I mean, they'll say Sasquatch exists, but beyond that, what would it really prove?
Oh, when I win, I'm going to Fish and Wildlife again. They're going to be, oh, here he comes again. Here's that jerk. I'm coming in this time. I'm going, they exist now, buddy. Now if you don't come, it's really not ethical. I've proven that they exist. Now you have a job to do. Are you ready to come and see a Sasquatch today? Let's go. Get in the truck. Let's get out there, and I'm going to show it to you guys. Like I've done a dozen times before, like I'll continue to do, right? Or maybe Discovery Channel pays for a TV show. Oh, they exist now? Oh, your footage is real? Hey, let's pay for if I do a TV show, if I had a TV show like Finding Bigfoot, my show would end with the proof of the species, not end in obscurity with having never accomplished anything. All the money in my TV show would go to research. Can they say that? Because that's the gods. If I haven't proven that by now, holy crap, I get $10 back and I put $100 in, So my documentary, it's $900,000 was spent just money-wise. Never mind the time and effort and the decade of work that I put into it, that I did all for free. And I'm not even going to get that back. And I don't mind because, I'm so proud of what that was. Watch the documentary. It's amazing. I showed Jeff Meldrum a Sasquatch in 3 days. Holy shit. Isn't that news? Man's a PhD, came out skeptically. And and was distant to me and was difficult and hard-nosed. And still I won him over. He saw a Sasquatch. He saw tracks. They were live interacting with him before he saw the Sasquatch. That's why I can't shoot them. They didn't have to do that. I can't shoot at this incredible being that's extending the olive branch to me and showing itself to me. How much of an asshole would I be for that? Hey, thanks for coming out and interacting with me and doing all this cool stuff. You didn't have to do that. Oh, and by the way.
Yeah. No,
Right?
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's a very different perspective that I have, but it wasn't always like this. This is just the evolution of where I'm at now. And, they've earned it. I've earned it. The men and women that have pushed this research forward have earned it. And we're really at a crossroads where I can win this court case, and I'm excited to do it. So
yeah, that's a good point. And then, like I said, I know my questioning seems like I'm against you. I'm really not. I hope you do prove it. I honestly hope. I think it's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It goes way beyond a quote unquote researcher that comes up and shows you a track cast. The fact that you're taking it to court, I can respect that. And do I think it'll go through court? Probably not. But the fact that you have the nuts to go and put it before a court, I hope a judge hears it. I really hope a judge hears it. And there is enough evidence. I know we were talking about shooting one, but there is enough evidence to prove that something's out there, that this thing is real, that people are running into it. I just don't think. I think even if you shot one, I honestly think the government's covering it up. I mean, I'll come out and say it. I think the government's absolutely covering this up. There's no way your court case is going to see the light of day, despite everyone says, well, it's Canada. Well, you know what? There's more UFOs crash in Canada too. And I haven't seen anyone in the Canadian government come out and say, yeah, they're crashing here. And so
you're wrong. We have in Canada, the Minister of Defense.
That's right.
Who's the Minister of Defense for decades, came out and said, UFOs are real. Have a good day. Like, stop covering it up.
You're right. He did.
So yeah, it's crazy.
But it hasn't gone anywhere beyond that. It seems like that was the last you heard of it. And so I really hope that you do, Todd. I mean, what do you need what would you ask of the public? I know you asked for help in the beginning. What kind of help are you looking for? And how can people contact you?
Evidence, it's through my website, sylvanik.com. Just email any evidence, any sightings that you have. I have to come to the United States as well. So I'm going to be doing something in Washington. So I've asked for your help with that. I need somebody to put it through in Washington. So that'll come about though in the next. I really in the beginning I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to Washington and I'm going to do this in Alberta and BC. Now that the money and the lawyers and everything's come, risen up to the top, and I realize what a huge undertaking this is. It's costing me the time and the money and the effort. It's going to take me a lot longer than I thought. However, I do have an amazing lawyer that I've just hired and I'm just working with now. I do have some amazing people that are helping me move forward in British Columbia, but I want people to be aware that British Columbia has to happen first, because I live here right now. But I have to come to Washington. I have to come do this in Washington. Sasquatch are there. I've filmed Sasquatch in Washington. Half of the evidence I'm presenting in British Columbia is from Washington. Half of the eyewitnesses, like Jeff Meldrum and Jimmy Chilcott, are from the United States. So we have to do this in the United States as well. And I admire, Washington already has laws acknowledging Sasquatch's existence with protection of it in Skamania and Whatcom. So I'm really impressed with Washington State and so many people are so supportive, and I feel because of what Washington State's done for Sasquatch, I feel I must go there. I must push this through there. And I found out Bob Gimlin lives in Washington State, so if I could get him to testify about what he saw, I mean, even that's something I have to work on with your help, Wes, and I'll say it publicly right now. Bob Gimlin, it's Todd Standing. I met you at the Sasquatch Summit. Love you to death. I would like to ask you to come and testify in this court case. All expenses paid, fly you out, testify, talk about your footage, talk about what you saw in a court of law. We can do it in British Columbia and do it in Washington State. That would be the crowning jewel of my court case, would be to have that amazing, incredible man who I admire and respect so much. So much. I can't say enough good things about Bob Gimlin. He's amazing. I'm a tremendous supporter of his footage and his work, as he is of mine. Bob Gimlin saw my footage and looked me straight in the eye and said, I have seen a Sasquatch, and that footage is Sasquatch. Probably the most profound compliment I've ever received about my footage was from Bob Gimlin.
Yeah, Bob is the best, man. Bob really is the best. I just had him on, and he was talking about other stuff that upset him, but I love talking to Bob. You know, I think of Bob almost like a father figure. I mean, I just love the guy to death, and he is a very kind soul. I mean, he is a very, very kind soul, and
honest and strong, but he's tough too.
He's as tough as they come, man. He's, you know, I don't even know. I know Bob's 86. I don't know if I'd even square up with him. He'd probably give me a run for my money. But no, I love Bob to death. But you know, and I'll see what I can do. I'll see if I can't make that happen, or at least get you in contact with him. And it would be nice to have it proven, you know. And I think that's the ultimate goal. You know, I don't take great pleasure in saying one has to be shot. If one doesn't have to be shot to have this proven, I'm all for it. I'm with you. But I still think, even then, I think if you shot one, I think you'd run into a lot of obstacles on trying to bring it out. But I respect it, man. I respect what you're doing. I would love to. I hope you do prove it. I'll start a UFO show I've been thinking of for a long time. And I can get out of Bigfoot. So I hope you do prove it, Todd. And I really do wish you the best in your court case, and stay in touch. If I can help you in any way, I definitely will. And thank you for accepting my apology too. I do. And make sure you have a look to that. Did you get the court documents, the PDF for the court documents? I just sent them today. I didn't have your email. Yeah, no, I got it. We'll get it. But I appreciate you coming on, man. I appreciate you taking the time with your court case, and I'm sure I'll have you on future shows. And I'll put links in down below this so people can contact you and help with this. Like I said, I respect it, and I hope you do prove it. I'll be rooting for you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me, and thanks for your support. I really appreciate it. I need it. Thank you. Thanks, Todd. All right. And that's it for tonight, everyone. Remember, if you've had an encounter, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Until next time, everyone.
Something quieter with the lights on.